Okay, so let's get started with our webinar for today. Good morning, everyone. This is Rambabu Vasapilli, the career coach for job search in Canada. Today, we are going to discuss about how we can ensure we get good number of calls from recruiters and good number of interviews scheduled. And this is very much particular about job search in Canada only. The strategies whichever I'm going to discuss with you, they apply only for Canadian job market and may or may not be relevant or apply for other job markets. So before I start with the actual discussion on the topic, I just wanted to know how many people are from outside Canada. Okay, so Madhuri, Prakash, Nishita, Raviteja. Oh, there are so many people from outside Canada. Okay, and we have Padmaja from inside Canada, Pratap, Jeevan. Okay, okay, so this helps me to plan the session better. Okay, so how I am organizing this session is for the first 15 to 20 minutes, I'll be talking about the core points in the topic that we discussed about today. The main topic, how to get a good number of calls from recruiters and the good number of interviews from the recruiters. And then I'll leave the floor open for everybody to ask questions relevant to the topic. That way we are focused on the discussion of the same topic. So let's get started on this. See, Canadian market, especially the Canadian job market, is very, very peculiar when compared to other major job markets like India or US. Okay, the reason being Canada is a very huge country. It is a land of immigrants, but it has very less population. Even though it is one of the superpowers, both in terms of economy or in terms of trade, the population in Canada is very less, which means the number of opportunities are also very less when compared to countries like India or US, where they have a large number of population. So the dynamics in Canada are completely different. So it is not that people have, there is a lot of unemployment in Canada. There is a lot of demand and labor shortage in Canada also. But the way we search for job in other countries and the way we search for job in Canada is completely different. This is where this seminar is going to be very helpful. And also, by the way, when I am covering any topic, if you have any specific questions, feel free to stop me at that point of time and you can ask that question instead of parking that question till the end. Okay, so the very first instrument to the job search in Canada is a very powerful resume. Okay, Canada has a very different type of a resume, mostly either a functional format of the resume or the roles and responsibilities form of the resume. So you have to make sure that you prepare a Canada-centric resume when you are trying to search for a job in India. So the type of resume we use either in the US or in India might not work in Canadian job market. So this is the first care you have to take, where you need to make sure you prepare the resume as per the Canadian template. This is number one. Number two, in Canadian job interviews, many people will ask about what you have done in specific company or in specific project, which means most of the questions are based out of your roles and responsibilities in that role or in that company. So one of the biggest mistake people do is they put all kinds of projects they have done instead of the roles and responsibilities they have done. So this is the point number two that you have to make a note. Prepare your resume centered around roles and responsibilities and not centered around projects. Your resume has to be very, very powerful. It has to be so powerful that as soon as they see your resume, they should take 50% of the decision. Oh, this is the man that I'm looking for. So let's get interview scheduled with this person. This is the kind of impression that one should create when the resume is presented to the interviewer. So preparing a very powerful resume is going to be one of the key factors. Okay, so what happens if you prepare a very powerful resume in Canadian format? Okay, so the first step is done. We prepared a very powerful resume which can help the interviewer take 50% of the decision based on seeing the contents in the resume. So what happens next is the resume goes to the recruiters and the HRs of the companies. So since you have created a very powerful resume with roles and responsibilities centric keywords, it will help you to get selected when they are shortlisting the resumes based on each company requirements. Okay, so once you are shortlisted from the list of the resumes, you are going to get a call from the recruiter or the HR. Okay, so how you are going to get the call? If your resume has very good number of keywords, and if your resume has very good number of role based points or responsibilities based points, and if your resume has more of the past experiences you have based on the current job description, these are the points which will get you a call from the recruiter or the HR. So the responsibility of the resume will end here. Resume's role is only to get a call from the recruiter and the interviewer. That's it. After that, the role of a resume is gone. After that, you will come into picture. Once they call you, you have to make sure you convince them that you are a right fit for the role. Whether the HR or the recruiter, they call you to understand whether you have the relevant experience that they are looking for and you have all the skills that they are looking for in that specific project. So it is more of a matchmaking exercise they do. So you have to, the way you talk, the way you tell your elevator pitch, you have to convince the recruiter or the HR that you are a best fit for that role. Okay, this is point number 2. So the point number 2 is when the resume is prepared in a very powerful way, the recruiters and the HRs will shortlist your resume based on the keywords. And since you will write the resume in a keyword centric and roles and responsibility centric, your resume will get picked up. The role of a resume will come to an end there, and then your role comes into picture. So you have to talk in a very professional way, in a very convincing way that you are a best fit for that role. Okay, so the first half of the discussion and getting good calls from the recruiters is by a very powerful resume, and number 2, by a very convincing set of answers which are more friendlier for the recruiters, to make sure that you convince them that you are a good fit for the role. Okay, now how do we make sure we get good number of interviews? Okay, the first part is done. The recruiters and the HRs are calling you and they're trying to have a very quick introduction about yourself to see how much of a skill set you have, and then they might get convinced that they might not get convinced. So after this, the HR and the recruiter will contact the hiring manager to further screen the candidate. Okay, now how do we make sure we get after this? Because getting a call from the recruiter or the HR is not going to help you unless it materializes into a technical interview. So to ensure that we get good technical interview, so what happens is when your resume is shortlisted by the recruiter or the HR, it gets emailed to the hiring manager. Okay, then the hiring manager will open your resume. In case of hiring manager, he opens each and every resume that was sent to him because it's already shortlisted by the HR or the recruiter. So there is no further shortlisting by the hiring manager. He opens each and every resume. Then what the hiring manager does is he will skim at your resume. He will have a very quick glance at the resume to see what kind of experience you have, and then he will browse through your LinkedIn profile. Okay, so it is very important that you have a very good LinkedIn profile, which is better than a resume, to convince the hiring manager that you are a good fit for the role. So in the LinkedIn profile, what does the hiring manager typically sees? He sees if you have any good recommendations on your profile. He will see what kind of certifications you have done, what kind of voluntary activities you have done, what kind of companies you have worked in the past, if you have done any projects that you have uploaded, what kind of activity you are doing in the LinkedIn. Are you regularly posting technology related stuff or inspirational related stuff? So that can give him an idea about your personality. So based on all these factors, the hiring manager will come to a conclusion, and then he will give a sign off whether to schedule an interview or not. So if he doesn't feel that even after seeing the resume, your LinkedIn profile is not good and he's not as convincing as you, I mean, he's not get convinced seeing your profile, in that case, that might not materialize into a technical interview. So when your profile goes to the hiring manager, you have to ensure that you impress the hiring manager with your LinkedIn profile, a fully updated LinkedIn profile where you should update your past career history, your voluntary work if you have done any, your recommendations, whatever you have received and whatever you have given. They will watch at your LinkedIn activity, whatever you are posting, what kind of posts you are doing. It will give him a sense of persona, what kind of person you are. So this will ensure that uh, he will decide whether to have a technical interview or not. So if your LinkedIn impresses him, then he will send an email to the recruiter or the HR to schedule a technical round of discussion. Okay. Now, once the technical round of discussion is over, again, how do we get past the interviews? This is point number 3. So when the technical discussion is scheduled, it might be scheduled with the hiring manager or with a panel of hiring manager, the director, and the senior lead who is going to interview you. Or it can be a combination of only hiring manager and the HR to look at your match, to look at your profile matching and also your behavioral patterns. Or it might be only with hiring manager. It might be with anybody. Okay, but whoever it is, once the first technical round of discussion is scheduled, you have to do the following to ensure that you get more interviews scheduled after this. The number one is you have to research about the company that you are getting interviewed. Okay, and number two, you have to research about the persons who are going to interview you to get an idea of whether he is a hardcore technical person or whether he is at a manager person. So you can assume whether you are going to get technical questions or you are going to get behavioral questions. So this minimal research before the job search, no, before the interview is mandatory. Understanding about the company, if you understand more about the company, then whenever you are talking or introducing about yourself, you can explain a bit more about what you understood about the company and why you are interested in that job. Of course, sometimes even the hiring managers or the recruiters or the HRs will also specifically ask you if you know about the company and what company's achievements and what kind of projects they are doing. So that gives them a very good feel that you are really interested in the job. So half of your success is guaranteed there, and the rest half is all in your hands. You just have to make sure you answer all the questions whatever they ask in a sensible way. Need not be all accurate answers, but in a sensible way that it creates trust in them. And then, of course, when once you clear the technical round, it will go past the another technical round and it will materialize into an offer. So the moral of this story is, to get more calls from the recruiters, you need to have a very powerful resume. So if you don't know how to create a resume in Canadian format, you can go to my website. I'll post my website here. Let me, in interest of everybody, I'll post my website. In my website, if you go there, you will be able to see one of my latest resume uploaded. So that gives a very quick idea of how the Canadian resume format should be. Of course, my resume is pretty long. I think it's about 6 pages, since I have a lot of experience, but you need not create 6 pages. 2 or 3 max are the preferred number of pages when you prepare your resume. And I have one more point which I forgot to discuss with you. When you're talking to the recruiters, you can, as I told you, right, you have to convince them that you're a good fit for the role. So in this phase, you can take the liberty of telling them that you know, even if you don't know. For example, if they ask you, hey, do you know Java? Okay, even if you don't know Java, you can say, yeah, I know Java. Because if you say you don't know Java, then they will see that, okay, you are not a good fit for the role, and hence they might not promote you to the next interview. But since you want to be promoted to the interview and you wanted to convince the interviewer that you are a good fit for the role through your technical skills, you have to pass the recruiters and the HRs. So which means you have to convince the HRs and the recruiters, which means you have to, tell them that you know everything, whatever they want, or you know you have all the skills, whatever they are looking for, and you are a good fit for the role. So unfortunately, this is the sad truth. If you are very honest when you are talking to the recruiters or the HRs, the probability of you going past the recruiter round into a technical round is very less. So you can lie when you're talking to recruiters and the HRs, but when you go to the technical round, you have to be as honest as possible, because in the technical interview, they look for your honesty, they look for your personality, your persona, and the behavior. Okay, so this is one point I forgot to mention you. This will ensure that you get more number of interviews. So this ends the discussion on how we can get more number of calls from the recruiters and the HRs and more number of interviews scheduled by the hiring managers. Now I leave the floor open to all of you. You can feel free to ask any questions if you have on this subject.
Hello,
I'm
this is Madhi. I just wanted to know, yeah, hi. So I just wanted to know one thing. As of now, my husband is having a PR and I've got the visitor visa. So shortly, I'm planning to travel to Canada in month of February. So in India, I am right now working for MNC company. So once I land there, right? So I will be having a visitor visa. So in that scenario, will I be able to apply for any sort of jobs with a visitor visa, or do I need to get a work permit, or how the procedure would be?
Okay. So when once you apply for a job in any job site or in any company website, assuming that you have created a very powerful resume in Canadian format and assuming that it is shortlisted by the recruiters and the HRs, They will call you first. They will either call you or they will email you or they will send you a message in LinkedIn. So the very first question they ask you is, what is your work authorization? So if you say you are on a visitor visa, then you don't have the work authorization to do this job. Work authorization that they generally look for is either a work permit, preferably an open work permit, not even the closed work permit, a work permit, and or a PR or a Canadian citizen. So these are the three work authorizations they generally accept when it comes to be eligible to proceed forward with the next set of discussions with the recruiters and the HRs. And also, even if you have a work permit, they will also ask you specifically what is the validity of your work permit. If your work permit is, let's say, expiring in about 3 to 4 months of time, that is also going to be a deal breaker, because if it is a full-time opportunity, the probability of the candidate getting attached to the company for a longer run is not possible, because it has only 3 or 4 months of time remaining in the work permit. So having a proper work authorization with a decent duration for expiry is what typically the recruiters will look for. So in your case, the answer is, on a visitor visa, it is definitely not going to be possible for you, because they will definitely ask you what is your work authorization. Even if you try to lie what is the work authorization, let's say if you are on a visitor visa, you can say you're a PR, or you can say you're on a work permit, then immediately they will ask you to send a copy of the work permit or a copy of your PR card. So in that case, you have to be a bit honest with them and tell them what exactly is a work authorization. And also, let's say you are a bit lucky and they did not ask you anything. Okay. They did not ask whether you are on a visitor visa, nor did you tell you are on a visitor visa. Even if you have got the offer on a visitor visa, uh, then your background check will fail. Why? Because when they are doing the background check, your employment history may get verified properly without any issues, but your Canadian identity check will fail, because for any background check, they ask you for Canadian identity. As a visitor visa holder, you will not be able to get any Canadian identity, like a Canadian driving license or a Canadian provincial card, or any Canadian identity like a PR or a Canadian passport. So since you don't have the Canadian identity, your background check will fail. And also they will also check for your Canadian credit history, which is done automatically verified. So even that will fail, because as a visitor visa, you cannot establish your credit in the country. So overall, the summary is, on a visitor visa, it is extremely difficult to apply for jobs and get success. The only way to get success is by getting a work permit. Does that answer your question, Madhuri?
Yes, Ram. Thank you so much. I did get it. But I did saw a few blogs and in the YouTubes wherein we can also have an option to convert our visitor visa into work permit. But I am really not sure how that can be taken care.
There is
But
many of the YouTube videos, they mislead the people. There is no concept of a conversion of visitor visa to a work permit. Okay, visitor
Mhm.
visa will only allow you to enter into the country as a visitor. But once you come to Canada, they will ask you, I mean, you have to approach the employer to see if there is any employer who can sponsor you a work permit. Let's say there is
Right.
an employer who is ready to sponsor your work permit, then the work permit process will start afresh, as if you are applying for a work permit afresh. The only difference does it make as a visitor visa holder is, you will be considered as within Canada because you are a visitor, which means it will reduce the processing time. For example, if you are applying for a work permit from India, let's say
Mhm.
the work permit from India might take about 8 months of time. But if you're applying for work permit from Canada, because
Mhm.
you are within Canada on a visitor visa, then your processing time will reduce, maybe like 3 to 4 months of time. That is the only advantage of applying for a work permit on a visitor visa, but this is not called as a conversion per se. It is just
Okay.
fresh work permit application. There is no concept of a conversion.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Yep. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So many of these YouTube videos and everything, they mislead people. How do you convert a work permit, sorry, visitor visa into a work permit? They just want to ensure they get good number of views and good YouTube income, but there is no concept of a conversion.
Just a small question. You just told us like you will be sharing your resume, the pattern that you have already done it to us, right? So how we will get that? Is it something that we get it over the mail, that one which we have registered, or how can we
Now,
get that
in
over?
this call, there is a chat window. In that chat window, I have posted my website, www.rambabu.ca. So this is a website I have posted in the chat window. So you can open that website and you will be able to see my resume.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, Nishita, you're asking something?
Uh, Hi Ram Babu, this is Nishita here. As per Madhuri conversation, I have one doubt. Means,
Hmm.
without work permit, means currently I'm staying in India. Without work permit, are we not allowed to apply for Canadian companies?
Yeah. Applying, you can apply for any job in any country. No problem in applying. But then whether they will consider you or not is the question. For them to consider you, the very first question they ask you is whether do you have any proper work authorization to work in Canada. Okay, so that you have to prove. What is the, do you have authority to work in Canada? How do you get that authority? By having a valid work permit on hand, or by being a permanent resident in Canada, or by becoming a Canadian citizen. See, these are the only three possibilities of getting the authority to work in Canada. So the answer to your question is you can apply, but you will not be considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
And currently I'm trying to apply for master's degree.
Hmm.
As I have a electronics background in bachelor's, I have been told that I need to apply for electrical and computer science. Let us say after 2 years when I have completed my master's degree, in that time I'll be in a student visa in Canada. At the time of student visa, let's say I have completed 1 year and 1 year is remaining, can I apply with the help of student visa for the companies? Means let's say it's I have means I'm more eligible for that rule.
No, even the student visa does not give you enough authority to work in Canada. Because
Okay,
let's say
so
you came to Canada on a student permit and you finished 1 year of course out of 2 years. You're saying
yes,
after completing 1 year, if you find a job which is relevant to your skill set, can you apply? The answer
yes,
is
yes.
you cannot, because you
Okay,
still don't have, you have only study permit, which means you're only permitted to study and not anything else. Of course, you
okay,
can do part-time jobs, but part-time jobs are part-time. But whatever jobs that we are discussing now are full-time IT jobs. So in this case, you will not be considered because you don't have authority to work. That is why what Canadian government does is after you finish the studies, they give you a work permit. It's called as a PGWP, postgraduate work permit. So with that work permit, you will have eligibility to work in Canada, not while
okay,
studying.
okay. Thank you for clarification. And one more query regarding this. I'm applying for the master's degree for electrical and computer science. Will I be full-fledged eligible for IT jobs? Means I have a background of electronics as a master's degree, right? Will I be
No.
fully considered for IT jobs, or it will be more inclined to electrical, means electronics as well?
Okay, so two parts in this question. One part I'm picking up from your previous question. If you
Okay.
have done your bachelor's in electronics or in electrical,
Hmm.
is it necessary to take the course only in that domain when you're applying for master's or PG? That is the question number one, which was asked earlier. The answer is yes, because if you, let's say, if you have completed a bachelor's in electrical electronics, but you have applied for artificial intelligence course in a master's or your PG, then the chances of your study permit,
Admittance.
yes,
Hmm.
study permit refusal is very high. You might get admission, but the visa officer might not be convinced that you are going to Canada for a genuine reason. So it is
Okay.
important that you take up the course aligning with your bachelor's education, so that the visa process approval will be easier. That is number one. Number two is the second part of the question, whichever you have asked, whether, let's say, you have taken electrical education, electrical and electronics education in your master's and PGWP. Your question is, can you work in IT job even with the non-IT education? The answer is yes. To do an IT job, all you need is a minimum qualification of bachelor's degree in any branch. It can be bachelor's in dental sciences, or it can be bachelor's in agriculture, it can be bachelor's in computer engineering, anything. As long as you have bachelor's degree, you are fully eligible to apply for any IT job in Canada. It has nothing to do with an IT education.
Means we'll have a cut over other people, means something
No,
like that.
no, no.
Okay.
They don't filter you based on your past branch of your bachelor's degree. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I, means apart from IT, will there be any scope for electronics in Canada? Means in general,
Ah,
VLSI, embedded systems.
very less, very, very less. The number of opportunities for electrical and electronic is very less in Canada, as far as I know. The reason being, electrical and electronic industries in Canada are controlled industries. When I say controlled industries, any job that you wanted to do in electrical and electronic side, you need to have valid certification. Okay.
Means I'll be having a master's degree, right?
Master's degree is a education, not the certification.
Means apart from a degree, I need to even do a certification courses for the
Yeah, yeah,
particular means four side jobs.
yeah.
Right.
For example, if you are an electrical engineer, you need to do what is called as a PNG. Okay, so, and if you wanted to become an electrician, you need to do some certified electrician certification in Canada. Okay, there are some IT jobs which are electronics and electrical centric, like whatever you said, embedded systems and VLSI designing, or CAD designing, etc. But those opportunities are very less in Canada.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks, Ram. It's very
That's
quite
why
useful. Thank you
That's why
very
what
much.
people does is, after they come to Canada and finish their masters, they generally try to, irrespective of whether they're civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer or a chemical engineer, they generally prefer to go in IT side, because IT is not a controlled profession in Canada. So anybody can apply IT. They don't need any certifications. You just need to clear the interview. That's it. And also the pay in IT is far, far, far better than pay in other non-IT jobs. So people prefer to, even if you are certified electrician, the amount of salary you get is less than half of what you make as an IT engineer. So that's why people prefer to move to IT.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Padmaja.
Yeah, hi Rambabu, and I have landed Canada a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a open work permit,
Okay.
and also I have 2 years of experience in India, but you may consider as fresher because my I was into project that was not yet started, and actually there is like I have no experience, and actually I have done DevOps course, but I'm not having like actually yesterday I have watched few videos of you, but you have clearly mentioned that coding will be must for DevOps engineers. but I'm not good at coding. And tools such as Git, GitHub, Jenkins, Maven, Grafana, Prometheus, like 10 plus tools I have learned. I'm aware into DevOps tools, but I'm not aware into like coding. So now we have started searching job in Canada. So like what you will suggest, like can like I may I move into like DevOps, or like can I change my stream?
See, any IT job in any part of the world needs coding. Okay, it is a myth that there is any IT job that exists without coding. But the intensity of coding will change from role to role. For example, a full stack developer will have 90% of the coding work, whereas a DevOps engineer might have about 20% of the coding work, whereas a data analyst might have about 10% of the coding work. Data scientist might have about 70% of the coding work. A data engineer might have about 30% of the coding work. So the 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 amount of coding will change from role to role, but coding is inevitable. Whether it is 5% or 10%, you must code because it's an IT job. Now, coming back to your question, uh, that yes, I did mention that coding is required for your role. Even for DevOps, coding is required. I'll tell you how. For example, let's say you said you learned Jenkins. So in Jenkins, you need to write the Jenkins file, right? Which is a Groovy script. So that is a script. So you have to write coding, and you have to write your build script, which is a shell file or a PowerShell file. That is coding. So you have to write that build script. You have to write the deployment script, which is again a Groovy script or a shell script or a PowerShell script. So even if you are setting up Docker and Kubernetes, you have to write the Docker deployment commands and Kubernetes deployment commands. So even if it is DevOps, you need to uh, do some amount of coding, which is close to 20%. So if you are able to learn that 20% stuff, mostly into scripting, then you will be able to do very well in DevOps.
Okay, okay. One more thing. As a fresher, is it possible like Canadian will consider freshers? They will hire freshers.
Yeah, yeah. Canadians, see, any organization, whether it's a big one or a small one or a medium one, in any organization, you cannot have everybody as a senior. If you have everybody as a senior, then the workplace politics will increase, the survival of the fittest will come into picture, and the companies will burn out a lot of budget. So how companies organize the resources? 50% of the resources are freshers in any company. 30% of the resources have intermediate skill set, and 20% of the resources will be in senior profiles. So which means you are catering to the 50% of the workforce requirement in the company, which means freshers jobs always exist. When I say freshers job or a junior jobs, I mean 0 to 2 years of experience. In fact, in the last couple of years, I have mentored and placed about 300 people, of which 70% of them are freshers, and they all got the jobs with zero experience in the past. So I have the data to prove, and also even logically speaking, freshers will be able to get the job quite effectively. That's why companies does campus recruitment. They conduct recruitment drives to get junior positions.
Okay, and coming to coding, one like any like 3 to 4 scripting languages will be need to learn, or like any like one particular like only one Python will be okay, or a PHP will be okay, or should I learn a 3 to 4 coding languages?
For DevOps, you should learn Bash scripting and PowerShell scripting and YAML scripting. These are the three scripting languages that are needed for DevOps. Python, not really needed, but Bash is very much needed, and PowerShell is also very much needed. And of course, YAML files are needed to do the pipeline scripts.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Raviteja?
Hi, I'm Ravi here, and
Yeah.
I'm from India. I have 12 plus years of experience into HR with basic knowledge of SAP.
Okay.
So I'm just planning for this, and I need your inputs on how to get work permit and all.
To get work permit and all is more of an immigration discussion, not.
Mhm.
What I would suggest is I'll give you my calendar link to schedule a call with about immigration discussion. Let me give that to you. I posted it in the chat window. You can, and if anybody wants to schedule any call with me to discuss about job placements, mentoring, you can also schedule a call in the below link. So I gave in the chat window, I gave both the messages, so you can feel free to schedule an appointment with me. Since it is an immigration question, I'll not be able to discuss that in this webinar because it comes as an out of scope topic.
Yeah, Ram, I'm asking you, I need to take any certifications or how to do?
Certifications are not mandatory for any job in Canada. But if you do any certifications related to the role that you are planning to apply for, it will give you some slight edge among others, and it will also increase your confidence levels when attending the interviews. But otherwise, it is not mandatory.
So do we have any HR roles there so that we can apply for that?
Yeah, there will be a lot of HR roles and recruiter roles. You can gladly apply for them. So
What
many
about
like
SAP?
the SAP jobs in Canada are very less because SAP is used only by provincial and federal government clients.
Okay.
Not every private company uses SAP. So the total number of SAP jobs in Canada are very less. If you go to LinkedIn or Indeed, and if you filter the country as Canada and type the word SAP, you will see about 150 or 200 jobs only across
Okay.
Canada. So which is like
Oh,
very less.
thank you, Ram.
Yeah. Jeevan,
Hi Ram, how are you?
good.
It's been 3 months I've came to Canada, and I have like 8 years of QA experience, but I'm still finding hard to get in here. So what I've been heard is people have to have a local experience. Is that true?
No, that's the example I gave you earlier. Like out of 300 people I mentored and placed, about 70% of them are freshers who has 0 years of experience in the past.
Right.
So it is
So,
not mandatory that
or
people
am
have.
I in the wrong time? Like, is this the wrong time because of the end of the year, or I'm really confused of what's happening in here. I have really thinking, why did I come here or something like that? Because I
Yeah,
worked in Australia as well. I was like too desperate getting job here, and it's not happening soon. And even in Australia, I've got it very soon, but I don't know why I'm not able to make it. Sometimes I really feel, is Canada a good, like giving me a good time for me, or something me lagging? I'm like confused.
yeah,
So,
that's the reason why I said Canada works a very bit peculiar. Don't we have jobs in Canada? There are so many jobs in Canada. In fact, the demand for people is more than the supply.
no, the thing is, I can clearly see a lot of jobs happening, and I do get a call from the recruiter saying they have a good match for my roles and responsibilities. At the end, they never come back. They'll forward my resume to the client, and they'll never come back.
Yeah,
So I was
so this
really
is where
confused. What is that happening?
yeah, there. This is where the earlier points I mentioned will be helpful. Like I said, right, the demand is very high, but the supply is very less. But then, even with the existing supply, how do you impress the recruiter and how do you impress the interviewer is the question. So whether you are preparing a right resume with the right points, right keywords, right roles and responsibilities, that decides the number of calls that you are receiving. And when once you receive the call, whether you are giving them the answers in the way they are expecting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
understand, but they don't even ask about any technical thing. They just say it's a perfect match. Are you available? What's your pay rate? What's your best time for you to get the interview? But they never come back after that. That's the main point.
Which agencies are those?
Lot, a lot. I have. It's been 3 months. I've come across a lot, but they never come back. That's the worst thing. I've been like, I don't know. That's why I thought of like setting
Yeah,
up a
I
call
mean,
privately.
it has nothing to do with the market at this moment, because even in this market last month, in the month of November, about 7 people in my consultancy have got the jobs. They're all freshers. Even in December, a couple of people have got the jobs as on today. So more
Mm,
to get. So people are getting jobs. So we just need to assess where exactly you are going wrong.
exactly. Can I
If-
set up a call with you for Monday? Is that okay?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. You can
I
see
would
the
like to do something.
posted
Yeah,
in the chat log, and you can schedule a one-on-one discussion.
yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. Any other questions? We have 5 more minutes. Yeah, Padmaja, go
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah. Apart from LinkedIn, will you suggest any website to apply jobs or search jobs?
Oh, there are so many. Besides LinkedIn, you have Indeed.ca, you have Glassdoor.ca, you have uh, CareerBuilder.ca. Um, you can also go for Monster.ca. These are major sites. There are also other lollipop sites like ZipRecruiter is one more site. There are so many others. But if you cover LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, and Monster, you will cover 90% of the market.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that covers all the questions from everybody. Unfortunately, there are no questions on the subject except from Jeevan, but Jeevan's case is a bit different. But anyway, we had a very constructive decision. I hope discussion. I hope it is pretty helpful for all of you. If you still have any questions, as I told you, feel free to book an appointment with me. It's a completely free. You can have a one-on-one conversation, and if you have any specific questions, I'll be able to help you there as well. And if you need any specific guidance, I'll be able to give any guidance as well. Okay. Thank you so much for joining, guys. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you, Ram.